My elder brother and Mengku accused me of bullying their savior by relying on my status, so, to get back at me, on the very night of the wedding, Mengku claimed my innocence had been tarnished, and my elder brother demanded I be drowned in a pig cage. I went mad and dragged them down with me to the grave. Never thought to live a second life. Bai Sang was holding a hairpin to her own cheek, smiling as she said, "Tell me, how do you think they'll treat you when they see my scratched face?" I sneered, snatched the hairpin from her, and slashed her face dozens of times. "How can you complain about a tiny blood spot? This kind of bloody mess looks much better, right?" I died on my wedding day. During the wedding night, my newlywed husband, Mengku, only glanced at me before walking out. He said, "The princess did not bleed on her wedding night. Her purity was already tainted. Such a promiscuous person is not someone I, the heir, can bear to accept." Everyone barged into my bridal chamber, pointing fingers at me. Such a wanton woman should be thrown into a pig cage. But she is a princess. The prince who breaks the law is no different from the common people. The last sentence was spoken by my elder brother, the crown prince. When I saw Bai Sang, whom he was protecting behind him, I instantly went mad, directly locked the doors and windows, knocked over the candlestick, and the fire spread throughout the bridal chamber. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 3 years ago. Bai Sang was holding my hairpin and had just poked a blood spot on her own face. She said with a smile, "What do you think Prince Brother will think when he sees my face? He'll probably make you kneel and apologize to me." The scene before me grew clearer, and I finally realized I had been reborn. Seeing that I didn't respond, Bai Sang pushed her luck. "If you give me all the new tribute snail shell ink, maybe I'll even let you apologize comfortably." A surge of intense hatred welled up in my heart. I snatched the hairpin and pressed her head down. Amidst her screams, I slashed her face dozens of times with a hairpin. "How can you complain about a tiny drop of blood? This kind of bloody mess looks much better, right?" I let out a cruel laugh and threw the blood-stained hairpin to the ground. Bai Sang broke down, screaming in terror. "Quick, call the imperial physician," I said sarcastically. "Why call for a physician? With that face of yours, it's even easier for you to accuse me of bullying others with my power, isn't it? This is my palace, and everyone around here is on my side." I walked out of my own palace, turned around, and locked the door tightly. Bai Sang, her face contorted, rushed over to claw at the door crack, gritting her teeth as she threatened me. "If you treat me like this, they won't let you get away with it." I didn't really care. "Don't you always love running to my Phoenix Palace? Since that's the case, then you can just rot and stink here." With that, I turned and left. In my previous life as a princess, I was generous, dignified, and tolerant, including towards the life-saving benefactor that my royal brother brought back, Bai Sang. Yet she repeatedly framed me, accusing me of bullying others with my power and being unable to tolerate a woman like her, no matter how I explained. My brother the emperor simply wouldn't believe me. Even my childhood friend Mengku sided with her. In a daze, I found myself in the imperial garden, where Mengku was adjusting his collar as if waiting for someone. Seeing me approach, he exclaimed in surprise, "Why is it you?" I smiled with an ambiguous meaning. "It's not your sister Sang. So you're disappointed?" Mengku's eyes darted away, then he looked at me with disappointment. "She is the crown prince's lifesaver. Has the princess misunderstood something?" In my past life, every time I suspected there was something between him and Bai Sang, he would always say this. In the end, he would turn the question back on me, accusing me of being jealous. I only found out when I was about to die that Bai Sang not only saved my elder brother but also saved Mengku. It must have been quite a challenge for her to have managed to rescue both the crown prince and the general's son when they were in trouble. However, Mengku had always wanted to use my status and power to bring down his brother. That's why he turned against me on our wedding night. At that time, he was already the heir of the general's mansion. I sneered coldly and immediately raised my voice to shout, "Guards, an outsider has intruded into the inner palace." Immediately after, countless palace maids and eunuchs rushed over and directly seized Mengku. Mengku forced a stiff smile and said, "It's all a misunderstanding. I am the legitimate second son of the general's mansion, and the princess summoned me here." Thinking of how he slandered me on our wedding night in my previous life, I stepped forward with an expressionless face. Slap. I directly gave him a slap, Catching him off guard, he covered his face, a flicker of gloom passing through his eyes, but still smiled ingratiatingly and said, "Is there something troubling your highness? Feel free to vent your anger on me, but I am your betrothed husband. You shouldn't embarrass me like this." I nodded in sudden understanding and then said, "Let's call off our engagement." What? Menku couldn't believe it, clutching his chest as if in pain. "Aren't we in love with each other? Who's in love with you? Stop flattering yourself," I calmly replied, then ordered, "Menku, the illegitimate son of the general's household, trespassed into the inner palace and offended this princess. He is to be given 30 lashes. Menku found it even more unbelievable. I even stayed here to supervise the work, only turning to leave when Menku's buttocks were bruised and bloody. Having taken revenge on my enemy, my mood improved considerably. It wasn't until evening that the crown prince summoned me to his eastern palace. At that time, Bai Sangsang, wearing a veil, was nestled in the crown prince's arms, weeping and sobbing. Standing beside them, Menku remained upright, not daring to sit down. These two had been waiting for me in the eastern palace for quite some time. I ignored them directly and greeted the crown prince with a smile. "What did you call me for, brother? Do you have more tribute treasures to give me?" Prince Chu Ling looked at me with cold eyes. "Kneel." Why should I kneel? I withdrew my forced smile. Punishing the general's son without cause, even bullying my savior to the point where she was nearly disfigured. "Do you think you shouldn't kneel?" Chu Ling's voice suddenly rose, as if to intimidate me, but my voice was even louder than his. "As a princess, which one of them holds a higher status than me, I can bully them as I please. Do I need a reason?" My arrogant and domineering words left Chu Ling stunned for quite a while before he could react. Then, he began to grow furious and sought to teach me a lesson. "Such nonsense. How can you have no sense of propriety or shame at all? You scarred Sang Sang's face and had Menku beaten, so I sentence you to 30 slaps on the face. Begin." With that, a palace maid stepped forward to restrain me. Bai Sang Sang nestled in Chu Ling's arms, casting a provocative glance at me. Menku urged me not to resist. "Princess, if you've made a mistake, you must face the consequences. Just comply." But how could I just let myself be slaughtered? I pulled out a small knife and began gesturing with it. "Whoever dares to come forward, I, the princess, will have her executed on the spot." Seeing the palace maids hesitate and not move forward, I sneered at Chu Ling and said, "I say, if you like Bai Sang Sang, why not just take her into the eastern palace? Now, the two of you are engaging in intimate relations without any formal engagement or marriage arrangement. It is you, my royal brother, who should be ashamed." Bai Sang Sang immediately broke free from Chu Ling's embrace, weeping with pearly tears. "Your Highness, if you don't like me, I can bear it, but the crown prince is your elder brother. How could you slander him like this?" Although her face was scarred by me, with the veil, she still looked delicate and charming. Although Menku was explaining on my behalf, every word he spoke was an accusation against me. "I don't know what you're making a fuss about, but your behavior is truly disappointing." I paid no mind. "In the imperial palace, are you allowed to fart? Chu Xiao, do you still have any sense of a princess's upbringing?" Chu Ling suddenly stood up, staring straight at me. I carefully noticed the fleeting disgust in Chu Ling's eyes and let out a self-mocking laugh. "As the saying goes, the eldest brother is like a father. Doesn't my upbringing depend entirely on you? In my past life, he was extremely cold toward me. If I made even the slightest mistake, he would punish me twice as harshly. I thought that was just his personality. As long as I followed the rules and understood etiquette, I believed I could make him satisfied with me as a sister. It wasn't until I saw him doting on Bai Sang that I finally understood. What nonsense about the eldest brother being like a father, it's all bullshit." This negotiation finally came to an end when my mother, the Empress, arrived. As soon as she arrived, Bai Sang Sang tried to lodge a complaint. "Your Majesty, the Empress," but with just one glance from the Empress Dowager, she was silenced, who then said calmly, "It's getting late, you should both return and rest early." Because of this, only Chu Ling, the Empress Dowager, and I remained in the palace. The Empress Dowager simply said softly to the two of us, "The Emperor's birthday is approaching, don't make things too unpleasant." Yes, she cares most about face. In my past life, I was the same. But in this life, I no longer care about face or reputation. So, Taking advantage of my status as a princess, I bullied Bai Sang even more recklessly. It became routine to have her kicked into the lake for a swim in the dead of night when the dew was heavy. I also put mice in her meals and, finally, tore off her veil during the needlework class to mock her mercilessly. I said with a smile, "Everyone, come and take a look at this disfigured monster." Bai Sang's scar-covered face was filled with tears as she looked at me with a gaze full of resentment and malice. She had lost all her previous composure and calmness, but constrained by her status, she could only kneel down and beg me, "Your Highness, please spare this commoner, you must be dreaming." As I spoke, I gave her a slap, adding insult to injury to her already ferocious expression. I thought she would go crying to the crown prince again, but for several days, everything remained peaceful. Later, I realized she was just biding her time, waiting for me here, sitting in the main seat of the Phoenix Hall. I listened as Chu Ling asked, "What gift will you give for Father Emperor's birthday?" In my previous life, I spent half a month embroidering a map of the country, wishing my father's reign to be long and peaceful. Unfortunately, Chu Ling took it, claiming that as the crown prince, he too should protect the country, so it was better to give it to him. Then he turned around and gave it to Bai Sang. At the birthday celebration, Bai Sang presented the embroidered map, and my father was so delighted that he appointed her as a female official. As for me, because my gift was taken away, I only prepared a simple treasure, and from then on, I grew distant from my father. Once again, I feel heartache over the foolishness of my past life. After coming to my senses, I calmly said, "No, I am the best gift for my father." Chu Ling was left speechless by my retort, but he was unwilling to give up. He knows my embroidery skills are excellent, so he pleaded with me, saying, "I have recently strained my mind for the country and the people. How about you embroider a picture of the nation's landscape for me? What does that have to do with me?" I retorted, seeing that I was unmoved. Chu Ling finally darkened his expression. "You really refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit, don't regret it." On the day of the birthday celebration, dusk was approaching. I finally understood what he meant by "don't regret it." Just as I was rushing to attend the banquet, Meng Ku blocked my path. Everyone around had been dismissed, and my internal alarm bells rang loudly. I quickly tried to run backward, but Meng Ku still grabbed hold of me. He gently held my wrist. "Don't blame me, Xiao Xiao. You're a princess even without embroidery skills. You can still survive, but Bai Sang is different. Just let her have her way." There was only a sharp crack. My wrist bone snapped, the piercing pain turning my face pale, and my eyes brimmed with uncontrollable hatred. Incidentally, he also pulled out the map of the realm from my sleeve pocket and handed it to Bai Sang, who had arrived later. I never expected that the piece I had worked on, hiding from so many people and only embroidering late at night, was still discovered by them. Bai Sang took it, her eyes filled with unconcealed malice. "What does being a princess matter? Your husband doesn't stand by you, and the crown prince doesn't stand by you either. You may act arrogantly now, but what about when the crown prince ascends the throne? By then, I will be the empress, and you are destined to be trampled under my feet." I glared at that despicable man and shameless woman with venomous eyes, gritting my teeth as I spoke. "Bitch." I raised my perfectly intact left hand. Slap. He gave her a direct slap. The veil fell. And Bai Sang's face injury had almost completely healed. It seems Chu Ling has put in a lot of effort. Bai Sang covered her face, thinking I was just venting in helpless rage. "You just stay here. I wonder what he'll think when he's told that his eldest daughter didn't attend the emperor's birthday banquet." She smugly threw a harsh remark at me, then took my embroidered piece of the rivers and mountains painting and went off to the banquet. After all, Bai Sang is still waiting to become her lady-in-waiting and strut around the palace. I wanted to chase after her, but Meng Ku stopped me. Watching Meng Ku shield Bai Sang behind him, the anger in my heart was hard to suppress. I recalled my past life, when the credit for my country's prosperity was attributed to Bai Sang. And what Meng Ku said to me, he said, "Sang is the crown prince's benefactor, and you are the crown prince's sister, so you should be grateful to her too. If you speak of this matter, not only will Sang suffer, but even your brother. You know, I don't like girls who are petty and calculative, so," I shouted at the top of my lungs, not caring about my image at all. "You've known each other for a long time, haven't you? This bitch not only saved the crown prince but also saved you, right? You're all in this together to harm me. Aren't you afraid the emperor will find out? However, Bai Sungsang's earlier words reminded me the crown prince, in the future, will become the emperor. My eyes darkened. Even though Bai Sangsang had torn off her pitiful image right in front of him, Meng Ku still sided with her. It was clear that he had long known what kind of person Bai Sangsang was. Yes, she once saved my life, so could you please bear with it a little, just this once. After this, I will marry you in a grand and glorious manner. Meng Ku pretended to be affectionate as he explained to me. So this time, don't go to the Imperial Hospital and have your wrist bone set. Otherwise your hand will truly be useless, Meng Ku said, holding my spasming wrist. As for the emperor, you wouldn't want your own brother to be implicated, right? His voice was gentle and affectionate, yet his actions were anything but sparing, his words cutting straight to the heart. Exactly. My hand is broken, and there's no one around. Clearly, it was arranged by my dear brother. The three of them conspired together to harm me. I endured the pain and laughed out loud. How ridiculous. Did this woman ever save me? The debt you two owe, and yet I should be grateful. Moreover, who cares about you marrying me? Am I a dignified princess, so unwanted that I must marry a mere commoner like you? Hatred reddened my eyes as I shouted with venom, a bunch of lowlifes. Die for this princess. With my other uninjured hand, I pulled the hairpin from my head and stabbed it straight toward Meng Ku's eye. He couldn't dodge in time, and a piercing scream rang out as he covered his eye and stumbled backward. With his other intact eye, he stared at me in shock, looking closely. There was deep resentment hidden deep in his gaze. If you don't go to the Imperial Hospital soon, you'll go blind, I said, withdrawing my frenzied emotions and speaking indifferently. Blood trickled through the gaps of Meng Ku's fingers as he said gloomily, Chu Xiao, you have such a cruel heart. If I'm cruel, then what about you blocking me here and not letting me attend the birthday banquet? Have you ever considered the consequences for me? I bluntly stated his intentions and added, however, if you continue to block me here, I'm afraid your eyes will never be cured. Then let's go to the Imperial Hospital together. Meng Ku was determined not to let me go. I sneered coldly, raising the hairpin to gouge out his other eye. This time, Meng Ku knew to dodge. Seeing his fearful expression, I calmly said, as you said, if my hand is ruined, so be it. I am still a princess. But you, a blind illegitimate son, what respectable family would choose you as a husband? Especially one who has offended the current princess. Meng Ku hesitated for a moment, and I seized that moment of hesitation to run straight toward the direction of the birthday banquet. It serves him right for being blind and me for losing my hand, which is why he stumbled multiple times while fleeing. I stopped at the entrance of the birthday banquet, glanced back at the persistent Meng Ku, and sneered mockingly. He's quite persistent indeed. The birthday banquet was held in the Qianqing Palace. With great fanfare, at this moment, the formal birthday celebration was underway inside, with officials and members of the imperial clan presenting their gifts. It would still be a while before it was the turn of the noble sons and daughters, as well as the emperor's own children. Although Bai Sangsang was the crown prince's savior, her status was ultimately humble, so naturally, she could not be the grand finale. Therefore, Chu Ling arranged for her to offer her congratulations first, which could also be considered a good start for the emperor. And this good start was exchanged for my painting of the country's rivers and mountains. A magnificent landscape, enough to see the country's prosperity. Moreover, it was meticulously outlined stitch by stitch, so vivid and lifelike that the emperor was indeed delighted upon seeing it. He immediately wanted to reward her, and Bai Sangsang joyfully knelt down to express her gratitude. But I barged in. Father, this is my embroidery. I walked over, filled with rage, and even gave Bai Sangsang a kick in passing. She fell to the ground, looking utterly stunned. The sudden turn of events left the entire hall in dead silence. Pointing at Chu Ling, whose face had darkened, I poured out my grievances. As my elder brother, he actually snatched his own sister's belongings for the sake of his beloved. This landscape of the nation and its people, I spent half a month embroidering it. The calluses on my fingers are proof. I could even finish another one within the set time. But can Bai Sangsang do that? She can't. She's nothing but a thief who relies on the crown prince's favor to steal others' achievements. The hall fell into a dead silence, filled only with my accusations. I know I don't look good like this, but I can't care about that right now, because I know my father is a wise ruler, otherwise he would not have managed our great Shia kingdom to such prosperity. Let these foolish people play their little mind games with me here. What's with this outfit of yours? Father noticed this first. I took a deep breath. There was more to explain. Then I pointed at General Meng and said, "It's all thanks to his well-taught son. He blocked me on the only path, preventing me from attending my father's birthday banquet, and even broke my wrist bone for that by Sang. My hand trembled spasmodically, and it really didn't seem like an act. My wrist was swollen and red, with a noticeable bulge. It was quite unsettling. As for the outfit I had prepared, it was a bit disheveled from running. But nothing too serious." "What? You said Meng Ku broke your wrist bone?" General Meng slammed the table, glaring at me with wide eyes. Then he fell backward and was caught by the guards behind him, as if he had just caught his breath. Rebellion. Rebellion, that unfilial son. He slammed the teacup onto the table, then walked to the main hall and knelt down. "Your Majesty, it is my failure in discipline. As long as Her Highness can vent her anger, any punishment for that unfilial son is acceptable." My father rubbed his forehead, looking somewhat weary. My mother, seated in the upper seat, looked at me with displeasure. I knew she disliked losing face. Moreover, I even accused her own son. With a daughter on one side and a son on the other, the situation became so intense in front of everyone. She felt ashamed, so she spoke up. "The wrist bone is broken, but it can be set back. My youngest daughter is the most understanding, so there's no need for the old general to be so apologetic." I casually had a ceremonial officer replace the name on the gift list with mine for the map of the country and society, and then I began to respond. "General Meng, there's really no need to apologize. I have already blinded him in one eye, so we're even." Upon hearing this, General Meng covered his chest with one hand, nearly fainting from shock. Of course, there was something even more infuriating. I said, "Now, your son has broken my hand, and I have blinded his eye. We've practically become enemies. How can the marriage contract still be valid? It would be better to call off the engagement now." All the guests in attendance gasped in astonishment, as they had never witnessed such a dramatic scene before. "Nonsense. How dare you cause a scene at father's birthday banquet?" Chu Ling said with a look of disgust. It was as if the person before him was not his own sister, but a detestable stranger. At that very moment, the blind Meng Ku also arrived at the banquet. Clutching his blooded eye, he knelt down directly. "Your Majesty, the princess is arrogant and domineering. She even attempted to blind me. If she is not disciplined now, who knows what she might do in the future?" He pushed everything onto me, unaware that I had already explained it. On one side is his own daughter, on the other a general's illegitimate child. Who do you think the emperor would favor? Not everyone is a fool who enjoys playing the game of two men fighting over one woman. By Sang, whom I had kicked to the ground, could only cry, earning Chu Ling's deep sympathy. I paid no heed to his distortion of the truth and knelt directly in the great hall. "Father, if Meng Ku can harm me today for Bai Sang, what other absurd actions might he take for her in the future? I cannot afford to take that risk, so I implore you to annul the engagement." This marriage was originally sought by the crown prince from the general's mansion, merely to secure their support. However, the heir of the general's mansion was already married. Even if they disliked me, they dared not force the emperor to have a princess of the court become a concubine. Thus, they could only betroth me to the illegitimate son, Meng Ku, and because of Bai Sang, the three of them somehow reconciled and got together, making the alliance between the prince and the general even stronger. So I was no longer needed. Bai Sang was jealous that I could be properly married to Meng Ku, so they plotted to ruin me on my wedding night. My eyes turned cold as I kowtowed to my father. "The emperor, I beg your majesty to grant me this wish." My father kept rubbing his head, clearly suffering from a headache. Finally, he sighed and said, "Then I will annul your engagement with Meng Ku. However, for your disrespect in the court, once your hand is healed, you must copy the scriptures 3 times to cultivate your character. Considering that you were also framed, I will not punish you further. I am quite fond of that painting of the country and its people. Let it be hung in my imperial study." Yet a mere commoner could provoke the crown prince to seize the achievements of his own sister. You have truly disappointed me. My father tapped the armrest thoughtfully. He seemed to be pondering something. Seeing the Empress Dowager looking tense, she quickly stepped forward to curry favor. Your Majesty, the Crown Prince has been tirelessly serving the people all these years. He must have been momentarily confused. Let him reflect on his mistakes behind closed doors for 3 months as a form of punishment. I sneered inwardly. What good is reflecting behind closed doors? Isn't the power still in your hands? If you have the guts, why not step down from your positions, relinquish military authority, and give up your power? But after all, I am the Empress's son. If I were to make such a demand to cut off their support, my maternal family would probably want to devour me alive. The Emperor paused for a moment. Then reflect on your mistakes behind closed doors. He glanced at the kneeling General Meng in the hall, hesitated briefly, and finally sighed. Take him back and discipline him yourself. In no time, the Emperor's gaze turned stern as he looked at Bai Sangsang, who was kneeling and weeping. As for you, relying on having saved the Crown Prince's life to incite others to harm the princess of the court, such a person is nothing but a calamity. Take her out and execute her by beating. I understand in my heart that my father has directed all his anger towards this woman. One is the son of a loyal minister who defends the nation, the other is his own flesh and blood. In the end, all the blame fell upon Bai Sangsang. But is she innocent? She is not. Bai Sangsang once saved the Crown Prince, and she could have easily accepted a title and lived a life of comfort in the capital. I still remember the moment when Chu Ling first brought Bai Sangsang back. How did my father plan to thank her? He intended to bestow upon her the title of County Princess, grant her a mansion in the capital, reward her with 1,000 acres of fertile land and 100 taels of gold, and even promise that if she ever felt wronged in the future, she could always turn to him for support. This was already an immense act of grace, yet Bai Sangsang was unwilling to accept it. At that time, she spoke with righteous conviction, saying, I humbly request that your Majesty withdraw these decrees. I will earn all of this through my own efforts. I have no need for charity. It really infuriated father at the time, and it wasn't until that painting of the country and its people appeared that father began to change his opinion of her. But this thing was taken from me. Ever since she entered the palace, she has taken many things from me, and every time I wanted to confront her, Chu Ling and Meng Ku would stop me, saying with a righteous tone, she's working so hard, why can't you just let her have it? The more I think about it, the more disgusted I feel. So when my father wanted to have Bai Sangsang beaten to death, I felt an immense sense of relief. To have my father witness bloodshed at his own birthday banquet shows just how furious he was. However, as a ruler, he never let his emotions show. And even his punishments were delivered with a light touch. It makes sense, how could he not be angry after his own children were brought to such a state? After all, I am the only legitimate princess of the royal family. Why bother with propriety and hierarchy? I'll just rely on his favor and act as I please. But I knew Chu Ling would not let Bai Sangsang die, including Meng Ku, so the moment the order to beat the son to death was issued, Meng Ku and Chu Ling shouted in unison, no. Both of them stood in front of Bai Sangsang to protect her. At this point, not only the officials and their families in the hall, but even the emperor couldn't help but darken his expression, saying, do you have any dissatisfaction with my decision? This is a sign of anger brewing. General Meng, frustrated by his son's lack of resolve, dragged Meng Ku out, saying, your eyes haven't healed yet, are you truly blind? What is there about such a woman that makes you willing to risk your life for her? Unexpectedly, Meng Ku shook him off and declared firmly, Sangsang also saved my life. I cannot be an ungrateful person. It is the princess who is being aggressive. If she hadn't come to the banquet today, none of this would have happened. I couldn't hold back any longer, so I must sacrifice myself and endure humiliation just to make your love story work. Is that it? Chu Xiao, this is not love. You will never understand this kind of feeling. Don't use your jealous mind to speculate about our relationship, Meng Ku retorted, but he was slapped by old General Meng. Bastard. Old General Meng glared angrily, but was eventually led back to his seat by his eldest son. Before leaving, he gave Meng Ku a meaningful look. Bai Sangsang clung to Chu Ling's embrace. Crown Prince brother, I'm scared. As she spoke, she didn't forget to glance in my direction, her eyes filled with jealousy and resentment. I couldn't be bothered to play these games with her. I simply knelt in the hall, waiting for my father's command, because I knew that even if Bai Sangsang didn't die this time, the two men protecting him would still be stripped of a layer of skin. In the end, Bai Sangsang's life was spared. But the crown prince was stripped of his position as the Minister of War, and Meng Ku was imprisoned in the imperial dungeon on charges of misconduct in the hall and plotting against the princess. He was waiting for his own father to bail him out. I smiled, quite satisfied with this outcome. After the birthday banquet, my father, the emperor, felt sorry for me for attending the feast despite my hand injury and even staying up late to embroider such a perfect piece. One after another, rewards were sent to my Phoenix Palace, and at that time, I was still recovering from my injury. Due to the delay in treatment, my right hand will likely struggle to lift heavy objects. And even embroidering a simple Mandarin duck pattern feels sore and tiring. It seems it's really going to be ruined. My resentment deepened, and if I didn't vent this anger, I would feel suffocated. At that moment, Chu Ling stormed into my Phoenix Palace, full of accusations. Chu Xiao, look at the mess you've made. Are you satisfied with this outcome? He wanted to gradually help Bai Sangsang gain our father's approval, so that she could become the crown princess. But if you two become a couple and ascend the throne as emperor and empress in the future, what will be left for me? I calmly replied, of course I'm satisfied. So satisfied that my hand was crippled by my dear brother. But Bai Sangsang has already fallen out of favor with the emperor, hasn't she? Even if you want her to be your crown princess, I doubt it will work out, trying to build her reputation, trying to give her a legitimate status. Did you and Meng Ku even discuss having General Meng adopt her as a foster daughter so she can marry you? What a pity. Bai Sangsang harmed his son so badly, General Meng will never agree again. I grinned widely, my eyes filled with malice toward them. In my past life, Bai Sangsang was adopted as a foster daughter by the Meng family, largely thanks to Chu Ling's efforts to build her reputation. The map of the nation was one of them. Chu Ling's expression faltered for a moment, even revealing a hint of murderous intent, but it vanished in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he returned to his usual haughty and indifferent demeanor. As my blood sister, you stand on the same side as I do. Now that I have been stripped of my authority as the Deputy Minister of War, we rise and fall together. Others won't be as tolerant of you as I am. Brother, have you forgotten that I am also a child of the Emperor, a princess of the great Xia dynasty, as a woman? Do they really fear I would vie for the throne? Don't think I don't know what kind of person your beloved Bai Sangsang really is. You two dragged me into this mess just to repay a favor. Did you think I was some pushover? So, as long as I, Chu Xiao, am around, you three scoundrels can forget about living in peace, I sneered. In my past life, Bai Sangsang accused me of bullying, ostracizing, and looking down on her. In this life, I'm truly living up to her accusations. Chu Ling struggled for a long time before finally spitting out a few words. Fine, fine, fine. With that, he gave me a deep look before turning and leaving. I smiled sweetly and said, farewell, Your Highness the Crown Prince. My accusation at the birthday banquet that the Crown Prince had stolen my work and given it to his beloved spread throughout the entire capital, including Meng Ku, who is also in there, playing the role of Bai Sangsang's suitor, among the common people. These post-meal gossip topics have become more and more exaggerated as they spread. Some say I have feelings for my own elder brother, while others claim I am a jealous person who openly framed my husband's beloved. Others say I am a pitiful soul, with both my brother and husband siding with outsiders, making my actions somewhat understandable. Some people also say I don't know etiquette, that I shouldn't have embarrassed the Crown Prince in front of everyone. Of course, it's not just me they talk about, there are also those too, like the seductive fox spirit Bai Sangsang. There's the Crown Prince, infatuated with love, and the general's illegitimate son, silently harboring a secret crush. In the end, all of these stories found their way into the folk tales. With countless versions circulating, I placed the booklet detailing these events on the table just as the Empress Dowager arrived. She entered my Phoenix Palace with an air of authority, clearly here to confront me, and immediately spoke up. Xiao Xiao, you have truly disappointed me. I wonder how much bad-mouthing Chu Ling has done about me in front of the Empress Dowager. I let out a light laugh. Mother, am I not allowed to speak up when I've been wronged? The Empress mother took her seat at the head of the table, assuming her usual dignified and graceful demeanor as the queen. Xiao Xiao, your brother is the crown prince. In this position, he faces countless difficulties. As his sister, you should try to understand his struggles. Now that his position in the Ministry of War has been revoked, what foothold does he have left in the court? In the future, if another prince ascends to the throne, what will become of us two women? You know that throughout history, those who fail in the struggle for the throne have only one fate: death. Only those who are slightly more merciful would spare our lives, but we would no longer live such indulgent and extravagant days. My mother earnestly advised me there. Every word was meant to make her own son the emperor, but I did not want that. These words actually awakened me. Should I support another prince instead? However, before that, I raised an eyebrow and said to my mother, "Your purpose in coming today, mother, is not just to persuade your son, is it?" The Empress Dowager paused for a moment before finally speaking indifferently. "Indeed, I came to tell you to marry the illegitimate son of the Meng family. Didn't I already break off the engagement?" Even the emperor agreed. I raised my voice, looking at her with utter disbelief. "Chu Xiao." The Empress Dowager's icy gaze fell upon me. "How have you become so unreasonable now? The Meng family holds military power. Their eldest son married a merchant's daughter, which is hardly respectable. But when you marry into the family, as a princess marrying into a general's household, it will be seen as a favor. By then, your elder brother's position in the Ministry of War will be restored. Not only that, but you could even gain the support of the Meng family. So go and beg your father to revoke the decree." Without a change in expression, I swept all the teacups on the table to the floor. The crisp sound of porcelain rang out, and only then did I say, "If your Majesty has come to persuade me of this, then please return." The Empress Dowager's gaze gradually turned cold. "Are you still my daughter? I am the princess of the great Xia dynasty, Your Majesty the Empress." I faced her with a smile. She never considered that I had just begged the emperor to annul the marriage, only to have someone retract the order right after. It's no wonder Father Emperor is disappointed in me. And who holds the reins in this great Xia dynasty? Of course, it's the emperor. In the future, I just need to be a filial child, and of course, that doesn't include the Empress Dowager. "You," the Empress Dowager pointed at me, unable to speak for a long while, and finally just said, "You've been cooped up in the palace for too long. Why not go out and travel for a while?" I wasn't surprised by her reaction. This was her way of driving me away. I don't feel much fluctuation in my emotions about her favoring her own son. After all, she is relying on this son to become the Empress Dowager. However, the emperor has 3,000 beauties, and the current imperial harem has over 100 concubines, with plenty of sons and daughters. The eldest prince, as the emperor's firstborn son, though not born of the empress, also has many supporters. But I know of a master who remains hidden and unassuming. In my previous life, it was only at the end that he fought fiercely with Chu Ling, nearly kicking him off the throne, Prince Duan, the current emperor's younger brother. I agreed to my mother, the empress. "All right, then let me go to the fiefdom in Nanyang. The scenery there is pleasant, the temperature is just right, perfect for sightseeing." When I said these words, my mother, the empress, gave me a deep look before turning and leaving. Nanyang is the fiefdom of Prince Duan. In his early years, Prince Duan moved to his fiefdom with his wife, claiming to enjoy traveling and sightseeing, and disliking the constraints of the imperial city. But who truly knows the thoughts of this Prince Duan? However, to gain the recognition of Prince Duan as his rival sister, simply offering my allegiance isn't enough. I need to bring something to the table. The Meng family is one such offering. At this thought, I couldn't help but laugh. Chu Ling, oh Chu Ling, who would have thought that the wife of the Meng family's heir is actually the long-lost daughter of Prince Duan? I only learned this later. But by then, the heir had already been killed by Meng Ku, including his wife. It was for this reason that Prince Duan, in a fit of rage, insisted on opposing Chu Ling, only to fall short in the end just as Meng Ku took command of the Meng family army. But before leaving, there was one more thing. My father, the emperor, had a heart condition, which later led to his sudden death when Chu Ling forced his way into the palace. Of course, it was also due to my mother, the empress, who had been feeding him medicine for years, so I had to resolve this matter. My father treated me quite well, and in fact, He was lenient with all his daughters, though stricter with his sons. He does have a bit of the air of a common father, so I can't let him die. If he dies, there will be no one to back me up, no one to grant me titles. I tidied up my things and headed to the imperial kitchen. This must be the medicinal meal the Empress Dowager prepared for His Majesty, I said with a smile. Walking over to the eunuch who was holding a food box and packing things inside, hearing the voice, the eunuch was startled and nearly dropped the food box, but upon looking up and noticing me, he finally relaxed. It's the princess. This old servant is about to deliver the medicinal meal to the imperial study, the eunuch said with an awkward smile, and upon closer inspection, there was a hint of panic in his expression. This was the look of someone who had done something wrong. I smiled and said, "Give the medicinal meal to me, I'll take it to my father." The eunuch hesitated. I continued, "This is the medicinal meal prepared by my mother, right? Since my mother is concerned that my elder brother doesn't have time, it falls to me, as her daughter, to deliver it. Yes, I am the Empress's own daughter. How could I possibly harm her? Yet in my past life, my mother turned a blind eye to my death. I don't believe she was unaware of my elder brother's plan." In the end, I took the medicinal meal. Holding it, I walked step by step to the imperial study, where my elder brother was still under house arrest. Actually, what the Empress Dowager said is correct. Prosperity and decline are shared by all, but I am someone who upholds justice even at the expense of family ties. I smiled and asked the eunuch at the door to announce my arrival, then walked into the imperial study. At that time, my father was reviewing memorials, occasionally rubbing his head. His headache is an old ailment, it's simply due to overworking his mind. However, the Empress, under the guise of concern, gradually triggered the Emperor's heart condition with some subtle medicinal dishes. My gaze drifted to the night-blooming jasmine on the table. Trimmed to resemble an epiphyllum, both blooming in the night, it was with this very flower that the Empress Mother once caused the Emperor Father to suddenly suffer a heart condition. I quietly presented the medicinal dish and softly said, "Your Majesty is burdened with countless affairs of state. This is the medicinal dish the Empress Mother has always prepared for you. Please try it first." "It's xiao xiao," Father acknowledged, just as he was about to take the medicinal soup from my hands. But I accidentally knocked it over onto the table, spilling it onto the shy, budding flowers. In an instant, the flowers burst into full bloom, releasing a pungent fragrance into the air. Father frowned. "Why are these flowers blooming during the day?" I feigned surprise and picked up the flowers to examine them. "Father, aren't these night-blooming jasmine? This type of flower shouldn't be kept indoors. It can cause breathing difficulties and, in severe cases, even lead to sudden heart failure and death." My words completely changed my father's expression. Then, as I picked up the handkerchief to deal with the medicinal food on the table, I suddenly noticed the ingredients inside. After giving them a simple sniff, my expression changed dramatically. "Father, someone is trying to harm you. Mother is frail, and I've often been by her side, learning about medicinal properties. If the herbs in this medicinal food come into contact with the scent of night-blooming jasmine, it could directly worsen the condition. In severe cases, it can lead to sudden heart failure and death. Even if the Imperial Medical Bureau investigates, they would only consider it an accident. But this medicinal meal was personally prepared by my mother. What reason would she have to harm the Emperor?" My expression grew serious, and I began to feel a sense of fear and apprehension. The Emperor took a deep breath, his eyes darkening as he looked at me. "Summon the Imperial Medical Bureau officials." I acknowledged the order and instructed the young eunuch outside the door. Soon, the officials from the Imperial Medical Bureau arrived. He took a sip of the medicinal dish and was about to say there was no issue when he suddenly looked at the plant on the table. In that instant, his heart raced with panic, and he immediately knelt down and kowtowed. "Your Majesty, there are traitors trying to harm the imperial body. This medicine, combined with the fragrance of the night-blooming jasmine, will cause a sudden heart attack and death within 3 years. Your Majesty, this must be thoroughly investigated." Coincidentally, at that moment, I also knelt down, tears glistening in my eyes. "Your Majesty is wise and mighty, a blessing to all the people of the world. Your presence has brought peace and tranquility to the great Shia kingdom. Yet who would have thought you would suffer such a treacherous act? Even if it were my closest kin, I would never show leniency. My words were sincere, each one striking a chord in His Majesty's heart. His gaze toward me softened considerably. Moreover, it was I who discovered this matter. Without me, His Majesty might never have noticed it. In the end, he sighed and dismissed the imperial physician. Then he looked at me and said, "Xiao Xiao has grown up and knows how to share the burden for her father." This statement meant that the mistakes made by the Empress Dowager would not be held against me. I happened to reveal my still swollen wrist, which was smeared with ointment, and wiped away a tear. "I only wish for your Majesty's good health, so that our dynasty can continue its prosperous era. Harming your Majesty would be harming the people of the world, and I understand this well. As the princess of the great Xia kingdom, it is my duty to share my father's burdens and serve the people. I am pleased that you understand these principles." My father nodded, finally less angry. He happened to notice the wound on my hand. "Has it not healed yet? If the treatment is delayed, I fear I may not be able to hold a needle for long in the future," I said softly. My father took a deep breath, doing his best to suppress the anger in his heart. I never expected that. As his own sister, he could be so cruel. I truly don't know if this is a blessing or a curse. I knew my father was referring to appointing Chu Ling as the crown prince. It seemed he had already lost hope in the empress, and by extension, the crown prince. "You also know that your maternal family holds considerable influence. It would take a great deal of effort to uproot them directly. So, I quickly knelt down. Your son is willing to share your worries, father." Only then did Father Emperor smile. He looked at me and said, "In recognition of your merit in protecting the imperial carriage, I bestow upon you the title of Pingan. I hope you, like the Xia dynasty, will enjoy peace and longevity." The meaning of these words tied my fate to that of the nation, showing just how much he favored me. I received the imperial decree and, following Father Emperor's command, left the imperial study. From now on, I am the emperor's person. I will serve the emperor from now on, and as for the emperor, he is still in his prime this year. If he is to die, it is still a long way off. I will tell the emperor everything I know and have encountered. When I returned to the Phoenix Palace, the empress was indeed waiting for me there. She asked, "Did you deliver the medicine to your father? Was there anything unusual?" "Just as usual." The emperor reviewed the memorials for a while, then took the medicinal meal and rested. I hid the imperial edict in my sleeve. The Empress Dowager visibly relaxed, but her eyes remained fixed on me, as if observing any unusual behavior. I didn't reveal any flaws. Under the Empress Dowager's watchful gaze, I softly said, "I have everything prepared for the trip to Nanyang. I will depart in 2 days. Will you see me off, mother?" Only then did the Empress Mother set her mind at ease, her expression returning to its usual indifference. "Your elder brother is still under house arrest. And the Empress Mother is in a poor mood." This was still blaming me. I smiled faintly and said, "Then I shall take my leave." From the end of the birthday banquet until today, she never once asked about my hand or whether I would still be able to do needlework in the future. This is what is called a mother. She only has 2 children, my elder brother and me, yet she is too stingy to spare even a little care for me. Yet my father, with countless children, still diligently attends to state affairs in court. What am I hoping for? She is nothing but a wicked woman who harmed the emperor. Everything shall be dealt with according to the laws of Xia. The Empress Dowager left the Phoenix Palace, and I retired early to rest. Early the next morning, I dressed and, accompanied by my trusted maid, left the palace. Having also informed my father, the emperor, he instructed me to test the Meng family's attitude. I indeed needed to visit the Meng residence, as I was going to have the wife of the heir, Lilan, acknowledge her relatives. When I arrived at the Meng residence in a sedan chair, their servant noticed me immediately and opened the door right away. "Your Highness, I didn't know you were coming. I'll go inform the old general right away." Before I could stop him, he took off running. "He certainly works efficiently," I thought with a smile as I walked into the Meng residence. This was my second time here. In my previous life, I entered the Meng family's gate at dusk, dressed in a bright red wedding gown. At that time, my head was covered with a red veil, and I had no chance to appreciate the beautiful scenery of the estate. That night, I was pointed at and gossiped about by a crowd of people. Those slanderous words felt as if they were carved into my mind. In this life, I arrived at the Meng estate wearing an elegant long dress, not to seek out Meng Ku. But he seemed to have eyes everywhere and fixed his gaze on me. Just as my wrist was beyond saving, so too were his eyes, but he was vain, so he covered them with golden silk brocade. Seeing me appear at the Meng residence, he immediately walked over, judging by his expression. He was not here with good intentions. It's truly rare to see the princess at the Meng residence. I wonder if your highness's hand has healed. I raised my hand, revealing the ointment on my wrist, and calmly said, "Thanks to you, it hasn't healed, my eyes are the same. You say your hand is broken, and I'm blind. Could it be a perfect match? We've had a 3-year engagement. I don't believe you have no feelings for me," Meng Ku said calmly. "If you marry me, I'll forgive you for nearly causing Sang Sang to lose her life." His tone remained as confident as ever. I stepped back 3 paces in disgust. Has the illegitimate son of the general's manor gone mad? Our engagement has long been dissolved. You're being far too presumptuous. Besides, though my hand hasn't fully healed, it's still functional. As for your eyes, I doubt they'll ever be of use again. I wonder if your precious Sang Sang will still treat you the same when she sees you like this. And one more thing, don't ever show your face in front of me again. If I see you, I'll beat you every single time. With that, I reached for the hairpin on my head, ready to strike Meng Ku, because I simply couldn't bear it any longer. But a white figure darted out from behind the rockery and stopped me, shielding Meng Ku behind her. Your heart is truly as vicious as can be in broad daylight. You still dare to lay a hand on Brother Meng, Bai Sang Sang declared righteously, her gaze toward me still filled with venom, as if illuminated by the sun, bright and glaring, without the slightest attempt to conceal it. You've already caused your brother to be confined and Brother Meng to lose his sight. Isn't that enough? What other wicked deeds are you planning now? Bai Sang Sang accused me, as if I were truly a person beyond redemption. I chuckled softly. I think you've got it wrong. Isn't it because of you that they're like this? If it weren't for your greed, how could you have harmed? Your 2 good brothers are like this. Now that the crown prince is under house arrest, you come running to this illegitimate son. Do your parents know how promiscuous you are? Shut up, Meng Ku coldly snapped. Reaching out to pull me over and positioning himself between me and Bai Sang Sang, his sharp gaze piercing through me. I warn you, don't you dare lay a finger on Sang Sang again. He was very concerned about her, so concerned that he couldn't tell right from wrong. Brother Meng, Bai Sang Sang looked at him with a pitiful gaze. I looked at the 2 of them with annoyance and sneered. Since you both like her so much, why not just make it a threesome? Why bother putting on such a show? I'm fine. After saying that, I turned around and prepared to leave. The moment I turned around, something suddenly flew towards me, so fast that I didn't even have a chance to dodge. A scream rang out. It was Bai Sang Sang's. She clutched her chest, blood dripping profusely, her eyes wide with disbelief as she stared at me in utter shock. "Princess, what have I done to offend you that you would attack me like this?" I lowered my gaze disdainfully. Such tactics again. The blood was clearly prepared in advance, showing that she had long planned to win sympathy by appearing before me like this. "Brother Meng, she wants to kill me. Woo-woo, it hurts." Bai Sang Sang cried as she threw herself into Meng Ku's arms. Meng Ku's face was filled with anger and gloom, his fists clenched so tightly they creaked. His cold gaze fell upon me, no longer carrying the feigned affection he usually displayed. I stood not far away, my eyes icy and devoid of warmth as I met his gaze. After a long while, he finally spoke. "Princess, please return." He calmed down, knowing that my noble status makes it difficult for him to lay a hand on me. He could only drive me away. I laughed. "You, a son of a concubine, what right do you have to drive me away? I may not know much else, but the Empress is determined to betroth you to me. Isn't that why you came today, to seek my forgiveness? I was originally willing to forgive you, considering our past affection. But I will never tolerate what you did to Sang Sang," Meng Ku said with restrained anger. I sneered. It was the same in my past life. I had thought it was because he pitied that Bai Sang Sang, and that Meng Ku was only taking such good care of her out of consideration for her being Chu Ling's savior. Besides, I'm not a jealous person, Meng Ku. I thought you were shameless, but I never expected you to be this shameless, I retorted. Talking more now is useless. You should go back and explain yourself properly to Her Majesty the Empress. If you've ruined their grand plan, even as a princess, You won't have an easy time. After all, above you, there is still the Crown Prince and the Empress. Even I cannot tolerate you for hurting Sang-Sang. If you apologize now, and take care of Sang-Sang day and night until she recovers, I might still consider it, but from now on, you must yield to Sang-Sang, as she has already suffered a great deal for you." Meng Ku held by Sang-Sang, shouting at me with all his might. I glanced at by Sang-Sang's bleeding abdomen, where the blood seemed almost drained, likely because the prepared blood inside had dried up. Without giving them a chance to react, I pulled by Sang-Sang out directly, under their shocked gazes. I retrieved the animal leather blood bag from her embrace. "You are quite clever to come up with such a method." I coldly glanced at Bai Sang-Sang and, as she looked on in shock, ordered the maid behind me. "Bai Sang-Sang has slandered the princess. Slap her 30 times. Chu Xiao, how dare you?" Meng Ku stood up to stop me. My icy gaze swept over him, addressing me by my full name. "You are no different." With that, I stepped forward and slapped Meng Ku. As he tried to resist, I softly warned him, "As a concubine-born son, after what happened last time, you probably have no standing left in the family, do you?" I wouldn't mind telling General Meng about this and seeing whether he would have Bai Sang-Sang killed. Meng Ku fell silent. I called over a servant and told him to strike. I don't dare." The servant stammered, trembling. "I'm telling you to strike, so strike. After this, you'll be following me, the princess, from now on, really." The servant's eyes lit up, seeing me nod in confirmation. He immediately gave Meng Ku a resounding slap across the face. After 30 slaps, both of their faces had already swollen into pig heads. Seeing their comical appearance, I couldn't help but laugh. Truly, the uglier they are, the more they stir up trouble. "I came here today to find the young master of the general's mansion, Shui Linglan." My words shocked Meng Ku once again. He asked, "Why are you looking for her?" His swollen red cheeks made his speech unclear. I laughed. "What's it to you why I'm looking for her? Hurry up and take your precious Sang-Sang to see a doctor, before she gets disfigured." "Right, disfigured freak," I called out to Bai Sang-Sang. She shot me a venomous glare as Meng Ku led her away. Before they left, I couldn't resist taunting her one last time. "Your little tricks won't work anymore. Meng Ku can't protect you in front of me." That meaningful remark left Bai Sang-Sang lost in wild speculation. But as for what they think, that's beyond my control. At the moment they left, General Meng approached with the heir and his family. He bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Your Highness." I gave him a deep look. This was what a normal person should be like. And when Shui Linglan heard that I had come specifically to see her, she was even more astonished for a long time. "Princess, as the daughter of a merchant, how could I possibly be worthy of your grace?" she said, somewhat flustered, thinking she might have done something wrong, or perhaps offended me. After all, given the current rumors in the capital, my reputation isn't exactly favorable, but it's not too bad either. These rumors are harmless, and I have no intention of marrying. I want to wait until everything settles down and I have taken my revenge, then I'll go traveling, taking a few highly skilled guards with me. Wouldn't that be wonderful? If my wife has caught the princess's eye, it is her good fortune. "Linglan, go and keep the princess company." The prince consoled Shui Linglan. Only then did she snap out of it and become less afraid of me. I touched my own face. "Am I some kind of monster or beast?" I said. "You can all listen to this, but you must keep it confidential." Upon hearing this, General Meng's expression turned serious, probably realizing that what I was about to say was of great importance. We arrived at a secluded side room, which was General Meng's study. Usually, no outsiders would disturb us here. He specifically wanted to pour tea for me, but I stopped him. "I'll do it myself." I took a sip of tea and then looked at the couple holding hands. The heir, named Meng Li, did not serve in the military. Fearing the emperor's suspicion, they understood the danger of overshadowing the ruler with their achievements. Therefore, Meng Li only held a leisurely official position in the palace. With a rank of 4th grade, which was sufficient, he had a distinguished family background and lived quite comfortably in the court. He met Shui Linglan during a leisure outing, and they felt an instant connection. Regretting not having met sooner, upon meeting again, they fell deeply in love, and despite the concerns about their differing family backgrounds, he married her. The general was open-minded and agreed to the marriage without hesitation. After the wedding, The couple remained deeply affectionate toward each other. Even at the moment of death, their hands remained tightly clasped together. Upon learning of their daughter's death, Shui Linglan's parents were filled with rage. Of course, they knew their daughter was the child of Prince Duan, but they had always been reluctant to reveal it. After their daughter married into the Meng family, they had even less reason to speak of it, since the Meng family had always been close to the crown prince. They were aware of the intricate and secretive nature of royal power and never dared to mention it, but with their daughter gone, their hearts turned to hatred. They went directly to Nanyang to seek out Prince Duan, bringing with them the money they had earned from their business over the years. I gave everything to Prince Duan, just so he could avenge Water Lily. It was also with this money that Prince Duan managed to reach the end, but it was also because of it that I glanced at Water Lily. She was truly blessed, cherished by her parents and adored by her husband. It's a pity that her happy life was cut short by those 3 despicable women. She was so frightened by my glance that she quickly hid behind Meng Li, which I found quite amusing. For a moment, there was complete silence as they waited for me to speak. I said softly, "I remember that Suzu Ran isn't her parents' biological child, right?" As soon as I said this, Suzu Ran's eyes immediately grew confused. She shook her head and said, "I don't know about that, but my parents treat me very well. They don't seem like adoptive parents. Did they ever tell you to keep a jade pendant close to you at all times, and that this pendant is very important to you?" I asked again, this time. Shu Linglan nodded and took out the jade pendant engraved with a white phoenix. "My mother did indeed instruct me before, just as the princess said, to keep it safe." "That's right. This jade pendant is a token of love between the current Prince Duan and his wife. When they first went to their fief in Nanyang, they were ambushed and entrusted their child to a farming family. Unfortunately, when he went back later, the family had already left. It is said they were driven away by bandits. Because of this, Prince Duan has been searching the world for his daughter. This matter is widely known. But they still don't understand, how could Shui Linglan be the daughter of Prince Duan? Princess, do you have any evidence for what you're saying?" General Meng looked utterly bewildered. I smiled and asked Shui Linglan, "Your adoptive parents knew about this. It's just that your Meng family is close to the crown prince, and they were afraid you might be threatened or harmed by the crown prince because of Prince Duan. Of course, there was also some selfishness involved. The old couple had no children, and your appearance that day was, in a way, a salvation for them." Shui Linglan was prone to tears, sniffling. She seemed to have grasped the whole story. "So that's how it is. The princess is of noble status, so she wouldn't lie. That means I really am the daughter of Prince Duan. But if I acknowledge my true identity, what will happen to my parents?" She thought I was going to take her to Prince Duan, never to see her parents again. I rubbed my forehead. This child was truly naive. "But have you ever considered that the crown prince is about to fall?" As soon as I said this, they all knelt on the ground with a thud. "Your humble servant is terrified and does not understand what your highness means," General Meng said, trembling. "He is old and still wishes to live out his remaining years in peace. You agreed to my wedding with Meng Ku beforehand, didn't you, because of the Empress's maternal family, so you were forced to take sides, right?" General Meng lowered his head and whispered, "This old minister truly believes that my son is indeed unworthy of the princess. These words bring me comfort. It doesn't matter, I don't want to marry him now, but my mother insists on forcing me into this alliance. However, isn't there a ready-made candidate right here?" General Meng was confused again. "But Prince Duan is the emperor's own brother." He wanted to ask how a brother of the emperor could become the crown prince. I twitched the corner of my mouth. "Does my father only have Chu Ling as a son, with you and Prince Duan supporting a prince behind the scenes? Are you worried he won't become the crown prince? Moreover, what you should support is the emperor. My father is not dead yet. He still has many years to live," I said calmly, then looked at General Meng on the ground. "I will force the crown prince to rebel. Be careful of Meng Ku. Beware of him harming your entire family. If pushed to the brink, he might even poison your meals. How could he possibly harm his own father?" Meng Li couldn't believe it. I said, "Just consider him driven mad for that woman. During this time, I will be staying here with you. By the way, give me your personal jade pendant. I will inform Prince Duan about this matter, and I believe he will understand." Shui Linglan hesitated for only a moment before handing the jade pendant to me. I took the pendant and sighed. Tonight, you will understand, we can only stand on the opposite side of the crown prince. Old General Meng trembled slightly, lowered his head, and also let out a sigh. It's really hard on him, at his age, to still have to worry about these things. Sure enough, that night, Meng Li caught a maid trying to poison the food in the kitchen when she was brought over. She looked panicked and even tried to take poison to kill herself. If you die, I guarantee your family won't survive either. Meng Ku will pin the blame on you, have your entire family imprisoned, and then take over the entire general's mansion all by himself, I said calmly, though of course, Chu Ling's help was behind this. Meng Li's expression was grim, for the taste of narrowly escaping death was far from pleasant. This maid was born into their household. So they trusted her deeply and never imagined that someone would dare to poison the general's residence in broad daylight. Yet tonight, they witnessed it firsthand. Old General Meng nearly fainted from shock upon hearing the news. Shui Linglan's face was even more filled with fear and dread. General, the maid burst into tears on the spot. It was me. I was the one who poisoned him. It has nothing to do with my family. But young Master Meng threatened me. He said if I didn't do it, he would have my whole family executed. Whose idea was this? I asked this question. The maid began to sob. It was the woman following young Master Meng who came up with the idea. She said that as long as my family was tied up, I would obey, and she even tempted me with benefits. She said that if this matter succeeded, young Master Meng would be the sole authority in the general's mansion, and I would be the head among the servants, enjoying endless wealth and glory from then on. She even promised to free my future daughter from slavery. This servant truly, under such threats and temptations, I couldn't resist and went to poison them. Everyone present understood this statement perfectly well. Bastard, bring that unfilial son and that bewitching woman before me. Old General Meng was truly enraged, and by the looks of it, he probably had no intention of sparing his youngest son either. I calmly walked to the side and sat down, even handing him a cup of tea as I did so. I was afraid he might get thirsty from all the scolding later. General Meng downed the tea in one gulp, and then Meng Ku and Bai Sangsang were brought forward under guard. Meng Ku, do you know your crime? When he saw that maid, he knew he was finished, so he bravely stepped forward. I'll take full responsibility for what I did. So what if I did it? Meng Ku declared with righteous indignation. I don't know where he got such great courage. Could it be because of Chu Ling, who is under house arrest in the palace? And indeed, it was. But I am the Crown Prince's man. How dare you lay a hand on me? Aren't you afraid of the Crown Prince's wrath? Meng Ku still spoke with composure. Is there no one left in the great Xia dynasty? If that's how you want to put it, then this old man will go and lodge a complaint with the emperor. Old General Meng looked coldly at Meng Ku. The last shred of father-son affection between them, it can be considered wiped out, however. The woman behind you, who instigated you to poison my Meng family, cannot escape blame either. I will send her to the Dali Temple, of course. Even if I were to kill her now, it would not be excessive. When old General Meng looked at Bai Sangsang, a fleeting glint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Bai Sangsang's face turned pale, and then she stood up, threatening, if you dare to kill me, the Crown Prince will not let you off. Then her peripheral glance fell on me. As if she understood something. I finally get it now. This was all your idea, wasn't it? Bai Sangsang glared at me fiercely. I took a sip from my teacup and said calmly, even a prince who breaks the law is subject to the same punishment as commoners, let alone you, General Meng. Just handle the matter impartially. I made the final decision to have Bai Sangsang imprisoned. Meng Ku naturally refused. He shielded Bai Sangsang behind him and looked at me with disgust. You jealous woman. I wondered why you wanted to cancel our engagement. It turns out you're jealous of Sangsang. And now you even want to drive her to the brink. When the Crown Prince comes out, you'll be the first one he won't spare, Meng Ku threatened, as if trying to force me into submission. Your behavior at the birthday banquet has already disappointed the Crown Prince. Do you really want to make things worse today? I placed the teacup on the table, and surprisingly, my emotions settled down. Meng Ku is confined to the general's residence and is not allowed to leave. Bai Sangsang will be sent to the Dali Temple. Rest assured, I will report all of this to the emperor. There will be no chance for any of you to turn the tables. as soon as I said this. Bai Sangsang completely lost her mind. Just wait, Chu Xiao, when the crown prince is released, it will be your end. No, when I become the empress, I will torment you mercilessly, making you wish you were dead. Yet, their helpless rage still could not change the facts. Early the next morning, after giving General Meng some instructions, I left the general's residence and set off for Nanyang. Having experienced this incident, they also realized that if the crown prince remained in power, there would be absolutely no place for them. Moreover, allowing such an incompetent crown prince to inherit the throne would truly bring ruin to the great Xia dynasty. Along the way, I was accompanied by highly skilled guards, and the journey proceeded smoothly without any obstacles. And during these days and nights of travel, I also received a piece of news. The current empress has been imprisoned, along with her maternal family, conspiring to harm the emperor, forming cliques for personal gain, and engaging in corruption. There is absolutely no chance of survival. According to the news, she is scheduled for execution in 1 month. Looking at this timing, I smiled. My father is leaving me time. He also fears that the crown prince might lead troops in rebellion. After all, the empress's maternal family holds military power. During the Xia dynasty, military power was divided among the emperor, General Meng, and the empress's maternal family, each holding 1/3 of the authority. Along with the personal guard of Prince Duan, which was specially approved by the emperor, this served as a form of security for them. After all, he was his own younger brother. In this regard, I greatly admire my father. Among them, General Meng had no suitable successor. His only legitimate son was a civil official, and his illegitimate sons were not particularly talented. Once he passed away, his military power would revert to the imperial authority. Now it's settled. It seems father has made thorough preparations to deal with them. I am resolute. For those who deceived and harmed me in my past life, I will not spare a single one, nor will I show any sympathy. I visited the Duan prince's residence with the token from Water Lily. Their people treated me with great respect. The Duan princess even came to greet me personally. It's wonderful that you could visit us. Child, how has your mother been lately? My mother conspired to murder my father and will be executed in a month, I said calmly. What? The Duchess of Duan was shocked, taking a long time to regain her composure before looking at me with a complex expression. You're here to lay low, aren't you? Come in quickly, Xiao Xiao, you can stay as long as you like. I shook my head. No, I came to tell you that your daughter has been found. What? Really? Are you serious? You're not lying to me, are you? The Duchess of Duan was even more astonished. I took out the white phoenix jade pendant. This is your daughter's token. She has been wearing it since she was a child. In fact, that farming family didn't die. After they escaped, they started a business, and it grew bigger and bigger, eventually becoming a well-known wealthy merchant in the area. Your daughter was raised very well and even met the love of her life. The couple is deeply in love. And he is the legitimate son of General Meng's household, Meng Li. Princess Duan took the jade pendant, examining it left and right, and finally asked with suspicion, "Do you have any evidence for what you're saying?" I smiled and said, "All you need to do is return to the capital and see for yourselves. Ling Lan looks very much like Princess Duan. You can tell at a glance that she is your child. Moreover, you've met that farming family before, they've just grown a bit older now." The Duchess of Duan was melancholy for a long while, concealing the excitement in her eyes and trying to maintain her composure. "I'll take you to see the Prince of Duan," she said, glancing at me. When I met the Prince of Duan, he was practicing archery. In his early years, the Prince of Duan had led troops into battle, so he had never neglected his martial skills in recent years. I told him everything that had happened and added, "The situation is tense now, and the Crown Prince could rebel at any moment, so we need your help. The army under the Emperor's command is defending against external enemies, and General Meng's troops have not seen combat for years. Now, only you remain," I said. Prince Duan was stunned for a moment before urgently shouting, "Someone, prepare my horse." Like my father, this Prince Duan was also concerned for the Emperor's safety. "Stay calm, Prince Duan. We must plan everything carefully," I said calmly. "Is there any need for a reason to send troops now? What if Prince Duan is rebelling? So we must wait for the Crown Prince to stage a military coup, wait for General Meng to appear, and for the Meng army to stand in opposition to the Empress Dowager's family. Only then should Prince Duan step in to break this balance. All of this was told to me by my father, and I followed his instructions exactly. After hearing my words, Prince Duan indeed fell silent. He also felt that it was somewhat inappropriate to act immediately, so in the following days, I stayed at Prince Duan's residence, awaiting good news. During this time, the Duchess of Duan kept holding my hand, asking about Shui Linglan's recent situation. I would always reply, "Your Highness, you will know as soon as you see her." Her anticipation grew stronger, including that of the Duke of Duan. They even considered bringing their daughter back. Later, they felt it was not appropriate and decided to wait for a while before going to the capital to see her. After all, once it's taken over, the adoptive parents won't be able to see it anymore. People like Prince Duan and Princess Duan won't blame them. In fact, they might even feel somewhat grateful. They were able to raise their daughter so well. In less than half a month, I finally received the news. The Crown Prince is planning a rebellion. He could no longer sit still, after all. Bai Sang from the Dali Temple couldn't endure hardship. If he didn't act now, even his maternal family, who supported him, would fall apart, so it's better to take a gamble. Chu Ling held the military tally in his hand, his final trump card, which could command all the armies of his maternal family. He then used this to rescue Meng Ku from the mansion. He even stole the military tally of the Meng family army, believing that as a member of the Meng family, he could surely mobilize these troops. In the end, Meng Ku even released poisonous smoke toward old General Meng and Meng Li's family. "Don't blame me, blame yourselves for being so unwise." Before leaving, Meng Ku cast a gloomy look at the Meng residents and said, little did he know that all of this was witnessed by his father and eldest brother. But their gazes were icy cold, indicating they had completely given up on Meng Ku. With no trace of familial affection left, the Crown Prince led 2 large armies and directly forced his way into the palace. Every household in the capital tightly shut their doors and windows, fearing they would be implicated in the turmoil. Of course, there were also some civil officials standing in the Crown Prince's ranks, but none of this mattered. The moment the Duchess of Duan and I boarded the carriage to return to the capital, we had already anticipated the outcome. When the Duke of Duan received the news, he left immediately, for life waits for no one. The Duchess of Duan and I followed later. We traveled peacefully by carriage, and when we arrived in the capital, dawn was breaking. The first rays of sunlight shone upon the city gates, and the soldiers who opened the gates for us were the Duke of Duan's men. I felt relieved and led the Princess Consort of Duan to the Meng residence first to reunite with Shui Linglan. Meng Li stayed at the Meng residence to accompany his wife, while old General Meng went to the palace alone, as he was a prominent figure who had led troops into battle in earlier years. When the soldiers saw him, they felt more kinship toward him than they did toward the military tally. When everything was settled, both the Crown Prince and Meng Ku were imprisoned on charges of rebellion and were executed together with the Empress. It also serves as a warning to the world, and on this very day, I finally dared to take out that imperial decree. In the Great Hall, my father personally announced that he would confer upon me the title of Princess Ping'an. This action signifies that the actions of my mother and brother have nothing to do with me. The princess, I remain, as always, important in the eyes of the current emperor. It also ensures that others dare not disrespect the past. After handling these matters, I went to the Dali Temple, where Bai Sang had already been tortured beyond recognition. When she saw me, her face was still filled with venomous resentment. "Just wait, when I become the empress, I will make sure you suffer a fate worse than death." Looking at her state, I took a step back as if in disgust. Little did I know that my action further provoked her, and she began to curse loudly. "So what if you're a princess? You just had the luck of being born into a good family. We're all human. Why should you get to enjoy wealth and luxury? Just you wait. The way you treat me today, I'll pay you back tenfold in the future." "You wretched woman," I interrupted her. "The Crown Prince has been imprisoned, including Meng Ku. Both men who loved you deeply are about to die." Upon hearing this, Bai Sang's gaze turned vacant. "No, impossible. You're lying to me," she roared, but I paid no attention to her helpless rage. Merely glanced at her disdainfully before walking out of the cell and looking at the 2 men in the adjacent cell. Their faces filled with despair, I kindly locked them up together. Since they like each other so much, they might as well die together. I walked out of the dim prison cell with a smile, looked up at the sunlight in the sky, and revealed a long-lost grin. Thankfully, this isn't a dream. From now on, this princess will go and see the magnificent landscapes of my great Shia dynasty. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.